When an elegant, mysterious invitation landed on my desk, I knew I was being drawn into something extraordinary, a hidden world beyond my control, brimming with whispers of desire and the unknown. I couldn't resist. That night, stepping into the luxurious hall, I had no idea how far this night would take me or what parts of myself I'd uncover. The invitation arrived without a hint of warning. I remember picking it up, still warm from the hands of whoever had placed it on my desk, and feeling its sleek, black envelope. The material was rich, luxurious to the touch. I slid a finger under the embossed silver flap and pulled out the card inside. It was simple but exquisite, with my name, Elena Martin, written in beautiful, intricate script. "You are cordially invited to the midnight auction," it read, a one-of-a-kind event for individuals of exceptional taste and curiosity. There was no return address, no sender's name. Just a date, a time, and an address in a part of town reserved for the elite few. I'd never been to an auction quite like this, and yet the thrill was undeniable. In my work, I'm used to orchestrating things, making decisions, taking control. But this invitation felt like a door opening to something unknown, a world where control wasn't guaranteed. It intrigued me and terrified me. When the night came, I dressed with purpose. I wanted to be striking, mysterious. I chose a black satin dress that hugged my body, low at the back, with a slit that hinted at my thigh. A deep red lipstick completed the look, a bold statement that left no room for misunderstanding. Tonight, I was stepping into something new, something powerful. I arrived at the venue with my heart racing, trying not to betray my nerves. The building itself was enormous, its marble pillars reaching up to a glittering chandelier that shone through the windows. I couldn't shake the sense that I was walking into a storybook, a place that belonged to a different era. The thrill of it filled me with a strange mix of fear and excitement. As I approached the reception desk, a man dressed in an immaculate black suit looked up and gave me a slow, warm smile. "Elena Martin," he said, and my name sounded different coming from him, almost reverent. "Yes," I replied, offering him the invitation. He took it, his fingers brushing mine for just a moment longer than necessary. "We've been expecting you, Ms. Martin," he murmured, his tone respectful, with an edge of something else, admiration, or maybe curiosity. "If you'd follow me, please." I fell into step behind him, noting that I was being led through a door to the left, while the other guests, mostly men in expensive suits and finely tailored tuxedos, were being directed through a larger entrance ahead. I couldn't shake a small prickle of confusion, but I kept my expression neutral. "Is there a reason I'm going this way?" I asked, glancing up at him. He smiled, that small, knowing smile that only fueled my curiosity. "You'll understand soon, Miss Martin. We have a special place for you tonight." The room he led me to was breathtaking. The walls were made of glass, and they sparkled in the dim, golden light. The floors were polished, the kind of pristine surface that almost felt too perfect to step on. In the center of the room was an enormous leather sofa, lush and inviting, surrounded by deep, rich curtains drawn over 3 sides of the glass walls. It was beautiful, and yet something about it felt deliberate, even staged. I walked further in, letting my fingers brush over the soft leather of the sofa, taking in the lavish surroundings. This wasn't like any auction I'd ever attended. The walls, the heavy curtains, the dim lighting, it all seemed designed to heighten something, though I wasn't quite sure what. My nerves prickled, but I pushed them down, telling myself to stay calm. After all, this was an exclusive event. They wouldn't bring me here without reason. But as I glanced back at the door, I noticed it had closed firmly behind me. I walked over to try the handle, only to find it locked. My heart quickened in my chest, a flicker of unease stirring as I realized I was alone, sealed in a glass-walled room. Before I could gather my thoughts, a soft chime sounded overhead, followed by a smooth, disembodied voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for gathering tonight. We are pleased to present the most exquisite item of the evening, one that promises to captivate your attention and your desires." A shiver ran through me. I glanced around, looking for a way to signal my discomfort, but there was no one in sight, no way to communicate. The curtains surrounding my glass room began to retract slowly, revealing the scene beyond. I froze as I looked out. Beyond the glass, I saw rows of men seated in an auditorium-style setting, each one dressed immaculately, their expressions varying from curiosity to something darker. I could feel their gazes as surely as if they were hands, pressing in on me from every angle. Then the voice spoke again, smooth and unhurried. "Tonight, for your exclusive pleasure, we are offering a rare opportunity. This auction is one of desire, of longing, and for one of you, an invitation to experience the exceptional." The realization hit me, sharp and undeniable. I was the object they were discussing. My body tensed, a rush of panic seizing me. I took a step back, feeling my breath come faster, my eyes darting around the room, searching for an escape. "No," I whispered, my voice barely audible, lost in the glass chamber. I moved back to the door, gripping the handle and pulling, but it was no use. The door remained locked, firm and unyielding. I tried again, harder, my heart racing, but it didn't budge. I could see the men's faces more clearly now, their eyes fixed on me with a kind of hunger, some eager, others calm and collected, their expressions those of practiced bidders who knew exactly what they wanted. I was trapped, put on display, helplessly exposed. But as I looked around, my panic began to shift, subtly, strangely. I couldn't deny the intensity of their attention, the way their eyes lingered, each one focused on me as though I were some rare, exquisite gem. It was terrifying, yes, but there was something else there too, a feeling I hadn't expected. The bidding began, the numbers rising quickly, voices calling out from different parts of the room. Each bid was louder, more insistent than the last, and I felt the weight of their interest settle over me like a tangible thing. And as strange as it seemed, there was a thrill to it, a dark, intoxicating thrill that I couldn't push away. My eyes drifted over the crowd, taking in the bidders, each one more intent than the last. But one man in particular caught my attention. He was seated near the front, a man in his early 40s, dressed in a charcoal suit that looked custom-tailored to his broad frame. His hair was dark with just a hint of silver, and his expression was calm, confident, as though he were fully in control of the situation. His gaze held mine, steady and unyielding. He raised his hand, his voice carrying through the room as he placed a bid. I felt a strange flutter in my chest, a spark of something I couldn't define. I found myself hoping, irrationally, that he would win. The bidding escalated, reaching numbers that sounded almost surreal. Each call sent a ripple of excitement through the room, the anticipation mounting, pressing down on me. And then, finally, the announcer's voice rang out. "Sold, to the gentleman in the front row." The room fell silent, the weight of his victory settling over us. I took a breath, my chest tight, every nerve alight with an emotion that bordered on exhilaration. The curtains around me had been drawn back completely now, the glass room illuminated by a soft, golden light, leaving me exposed, vulnerable, and yet oddly exhilarated. The man rose, his movements unhurried, confident as he walked toward the glass chamber where I stood. His gaze was still on me, unwavering, as though I were the only person in the world. And in that moment, the fear melted away, replaced by something deeper, something undeniable. As he approached, I could feel my pulse racing, every part of me taut with a mixture of anticipation and fear. The man paused just outside the glass walls of my chamber, observing me with that same unreadable gaze. His presence filled the space, making it feel smaller, more intimate, despite the transparency of the room. Then, with a quiet click, the door unlocked, and he stepped inside, his movements calm, controlled. His expression was soft yet intense, as if he were assessing every thought I wasn't voicing, every unspoken reaction to this bizarre, intoxicating situation. "Ms. Martin," he said, his voice low, warm, as if he were already acquainted with the rhythm of my heartbeat. "Quite an evening for you, I imagine." I swallowed, my voice catching in my throat.
"Ah, yes."
It's been unexpected. A slight smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Unexpected, he repeated, as if savoring the word. Good. I was hoping for a bit of intrigue tonight. He paused, letting the silence stretch between us, as though measuring my response. I could feel the air shift around us, heavy with the weight of unsaid things. There was something about him, an intensity that felt all-consuming, demanding, as if he were used to commanding every situation he stepped into. A thrill raced through me. You won the auction, I said, almost to break the silence. It sounded silly, childish even, but it was all I could manage. There was a vulnerability in being here, in knowing that this man, a complete stranger, had placed a bid on me, a bid so high it seemed impossible. And now he was here, in this room with me, as if everything had been leading to this moment. Yes, he replied simply, his voice smooth as velvet. It seems I have. He took a step closer, and every instinct in me screamed to move, to put space between us, but I found myself rooted to the spot, as though his presence had wrapped itself around me. I could see the faint silver at his temples, the lines around his eyes that hinted at experience, confidence. His gaze held mine unwavering. Are you nervous? He asked, and his tone was softer now, almost teasing, but with an edge of something that suggested he already knew the answer. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Maybe a little, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Good, he murmured, his eyes crinkling slightly at the corners. Nerves can be useful. Another step, and he was close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. The world outside the glass faded, the whispers of the audience nothing more than a distant hum. It was as though we were alone, suspended in this moment. He extended a hand toward me, waiting, patient. For a moment, I hesitated, my mind racing with 1,000 questions, 1,000 reasons why I should pull away. But something in his gaze was reassuring, grounding, and before I knew it, my hand was in his, the contact sending a shiver through me. You don't need to say anything, he said softly. Just let yourself be here. His words settled over me, like an invitation to let go of the thoughts and doubts that had been swirling in my mind since I'd first stepped into the building. And for the first time, I found myself wanting to let them go, to be present, to give in to whatever this night held. He led me to the sofa, his hand still enveloping mine, warm and steady. The leather was cool against my skin as I settled down, and he took a seat beside me, close enough that I could feel his presence without touching him directly. I could sense the eyes of the crowd beyond the glass, a reminder of the world just outside this room. But instead of unnerving me, it added a strange, almost electric thrill. I felt seen, watched in a way that went beyond mere curiosity. It was as if their gazes lent weight to every touch, every breath. He seemed to understand this without me having to say a word. His fingers grazed my arm, a feather-light touch that left a trail of warmth in its wake. He didn't rush, didn't push. Instead, he seemed content to let the moment unfold, letting the tension build slowly, deliberately, as if savoring every reaction, every silent admission. I let out a soft, shaky breath, my pulse thrumming in my veins. There was a strange comfort in surrendering to this, to being here with him in this moment, where words were unnecessary. I closed my eyes, leaning back into the softness of the sofa, feeling his hand against mine, solid and grounding. In the silence, every sound, every brush of movement, felt amplified. His hand moved to the nape of my neck, his fingers gentle, a quiet reassurance that held a surprising intimacy. It was as if he understood the vulnerability of being here, of being seen, and honored it in a way I hadn't expected. Tell me, he murmured, his voice a soft rumble in the quiet. What is it you're feeling right now? I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. But he waited, his gaze patient, as if he were willing to give me all the time I needed. I feel seen, I whispered, the admission both freeing and terrifying. He gave a slight nod, his gaze never wavering. Good, he said simply. Then tonight is exactly what it should be. The world beyond the glass faded further, until all that existed was the steady warmth of his presence, the quiet strength in his touch. I felt myself let go, surrendering to the moment, the sensations, the unspoken understanding that seemed to flow between us. And as the night wore on, the lines between self and other, between audience and intimacy, blurred and dissolved. All that remained was the thrill of connection, the sense of being chosen, desired, and, perhaps, understood in a way that went beyond words. In the stillness of that room, with the soft glow of lights casting shadows around us, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, a sense of freedom, of release, of stepping into a part of myself I hadn't realized was there. The night was ours, a shared secret in the world of glances and whispers, a memory etched in the space between silence and words. And as the first light of dawn began to filter through the glass, I knew this night would stay with me, a moment of surrender, of connection, of feeling truly alive. As dawn broke, I left with more than memories. I left changed, holding on to a night that would stay with me long after the lights dimmed.